landmark research in the last 10 years. And you might ask that how I chose these papers, right? First thing is this paper should be published in one of the very good journal, like very good journal means a high impact journal, like New England Journal of Medicine, anesthesiology, right? And second thing is there is no industry bias. There's no industry sponsored study can be included. And the picture you see here, a lot of tools. Picture you see here actually have no relationship with the content of the study. I put them for two reasons. Number one, to help you to plan for your next vacation. And second one is to symbolize the landmark. Like what is the landmark of Da Nang? Lady Buddha, right? Okay. So like, in our field, what is the landmark study? Study that kind of outstanding, that kind of change our practice. Just to symbolize this landmark. Okay. So next slide, if you can better. The first study is, I call it Taj Mahal study. How many of you know the name of Taj Mahal? Raise your hand. No one? Taj Mahal? Taj Mahal, oh yeah, she's from India, so she knows that. Taj Mahal is in India. It is a beautiful architecture, whole building made of marble. And it is built long time ago by the Mughal emperor, Shah Jahan, okay? And some people say that he built this building to show love to his wife, okay? Because his wife's name is Mumtaz. So Taj Mahal came from Mumtaz. But people don't like him, and they say that there's no love here. He just wanted to glorify himself. Because he has a lot of wives, not only Taj Mahal, he married with more than one wife. Okay, whatever it is. And Taj Mahal study, we talk about the safeguard to prevent neurological complication after epidural steroid injection. So how many of you do epidural steroid injection? Okay, there are quite a bit, 3, 4, okay, not doing, okay, all right. So epidural injection, as you know that for the chronic pain medicine, it is a very common procedure, very common. And complication also rare. It's not happen very frequently, but when it happens, it's a major side effect, like paralysis. So, next slide please. So, in early 2000, there are some sporadic report of the complication, such as paraplegia, transient paraparesis, and then FDA, in US, all the intervention of the doctor's practice regulated by the FDA. FDA kind of formed a task force. They form a task force and they collect all the information to see why after this intervention some patients have complication. So this is the paper actually describe all this recommendation by the FDA task force. Okay? So first suggestion is always take multiple views. And those of you who are anesthesiologists, you don't use X-ray, right? You just ask the patient to sit up and then boom, give the epidural, right? But chronic pain medicine, most of them are X-ray guided. So they say not only single view, take multiple views. Take AP view, lateral view, and use the contrast or dye. And this is something very interesting. The live fluoroscopy use and digital subtraction imaging use are recommended for all transforaminal injection. How many of you do DSI, digital subtraction imaging? Anyone? No, okay. So this is recommended, but if this is a picture you see here, and when they did a fluoroscopy, AP view, lateral view, there is no sign arterial spread, and then when they use DSI, digital suppression imaging, you see the intraarterial spread. So you don't even want to inject local anesthetic, the artery, right? But that's why they recommended it. Next slide, please. So another recommendation is for cervical epidural, they say not to inject, not to attempt above the C6 level. The C6 level, normally epidural we use a loss of resistance, right? And the C6 level, ligamentum flavum is incomplete. It is not, doesn't surround the whole epidural space. So it is more risky. They say C7T1 is the widest, and this is the place you need to do cervical epidural, the space they recommend. And not to use any particulate steroid in the cervical, thoracic, or transforaminal injections. Because the particulate steroid, as you understand that, it is a particle there, right? So when you have small artery spread, and you don't know that, you don't use DSI, you don't use live fluoroscopy, then this small artery can get clogged. And this is the FDA task force found in the analysis. Okay. Next slide, please. So next paper I will talk about, I call it Eiffel Tower study. Eiffel Tower is also symbol of love. You know, you saw the picture in like our Hollywood actor, actress, they go to Eiffel Tower and then, would you marry me? And they say in front of Eiffel Tower. It's a symbol of landmark. Of course it's a landmark, also symbol of love. And you see how the two souls coming together in one soul. This is what the symbolic. And Eiffel Tower study about randomized controlled trial of epidural steroid injection for spinal stenosis. So spinal stenosis is very different from other chronic pain conditions. The spinal stenosis is something is compressing the spinal cord. Compression can happen by ligamentum flavum hypertrophy. Also can happen from disc herniation, or some people can have a congenital narrowing of the canal. Usually it needs a decompression surgery. Usually you need to discectomy or laminectomy, some form of decompression. And ligamentum flavum also can be scrapped with an advanced procedure called mild procedure. Epidural steroid injection also can be done. It is minimally invasive, can be done. And so this study focused on the efficacy of the epidural steroid injection on spinal stenosis. Next step, please. So I will not go very detailed of this study. It's kind of boring to listen to the study, how they conducted. But remember that it is published in New England Journal of Medicine. It's a very good journal. So they recruited, scanned 2,000 patients, and their inclusion and exclusion criteria, and 400 patients are eligible for the study, 200 in each group, and then after some patients dropped off, so eventually they had 193 patients in each group, which is actually for interventional pain medicine a very large number. Next slide, please. So here's the overall summary of the study. As you see that RMDQ score, or meaning functionality score. Spinal stenosis patient develop neurogenic claudication. They walk few blocks and they develop pain. Walk few blocks, develop pain. This functionality score is the improvement of their pain, and also the pain score. Pain score, we use pain score for a long time. It has bad critics because pain score is, to me, something is like 2, other people it can be 7 or 8. But it is, there is no blood pressure machine to check pain, so we use the opposite subjective score. In both parameters, it showed that no long-lasting effect. And you see that here 6 weeks, P score 0.48, P.07. That means there is no long-lasting effect of the epidural injection, but there is 3 weeks. After 3 weeks, you can get pain relief. And in one arm, you have a lidocaine injection, another arm lidocaine and glucocorticoid. So overall, summary is it has short-lasting benefit. Okay, but they found a very interesting study and observation. Next slide, please. In this observation, this is very interesting. They say the interlaminar approach is more efficacious than transforaminal. Interlaminar approach, you see that 3 weeks, P.001, very highly significant. And leg pain, also highly significant, 0.005. Transforaminal, no benefit. And those of you who practice interventional pain medicine, you know that this result is not surprising. Because when you do interlaminar, you're pushing medicine to the epidural space, a large area covered, right? But transforaminal, you are focusing on one particular level, L5S1, L4, L5, L3, L4, whatever it is. But that area may not be the pain generator. When someone has a stenosis, stenosis can happen in a lot of levels, right? So it is very easy to understand for the pain medicine doctors. The transforaminal have a high failure rate than interlaminar. Okay, so I go to the next slide, please. It's a Burj Khalifa, world tallest tower. It's also a world landmark. And I'm hearing that Saudi Arabia is now building another tower, which is taller than this one. And so hopefully it will not be a landmark in the next few years, but at present, it is the world's tallest tower. The Burj Khalifa study is about vertebroplasty. Anyone does vertebroplasty here? Anyone? But you heard what vertebroplasty is, right? It is basically putting cement. Oh, you are buzzing me up already? All right. So the time is very tight, so I will try to catch up with the time. And vertebroplasty and sham procedure is already decided in 2010, and two studies published in New England Journal of Medicine, and they showed that vertebroplasty has no benefit over sham. But this study performed in, next slide please. I hate to speak very quickly, then people don't understand what I'm talking. And so, but we need to catch up time. So here, this study they did because they want to recruit more patients to get a difference between the two groups. So one study population, as you see, the 96% female, and female osteoporotic fracture, very common in female. And localized pain, back pain, median 39 days and 76. And each group, they have a 91, 89 patients. And the result you see here, baseline pain score 7.7, 7.9. After 1 month, no differences between the two groups. Although both groups got either vertebroplasty or placebo. Placebo means they did not actually inject cement, they just put the lidocaine infiltration. And that's actually very similar to the earlier studies. Next slide, please. And as you see here, pain score after vertebral compression fracture 8, all the way down to 3, and then it stayed the same level up to 12 months. And it's a big industry business, you know, billions of dollars. They all, you know, Kyphon, Stryker, billions of dollars on the kyphoplasty. This result is not pleasing to them. It's a no effect. But in our practice, we do exactly similar way. Most of the patient diagnosed with vertebral compression fracture, we just give them conservative therapy. We just say, you know, okay, you will be fine. Use brace and use NSAID. After 3 months, a small portion of the patient, like less than 10% patient, still continue to have back pain. But 90% patient get better. And this 10% patient, we can consider vertebroplasty. Okay, next slide please. So this is actually my conclusion from this study, is that periosteal infiltration alone is beneficial for most of the patients if you diagnose with it less than 10% patients still continue to have pain. And for this patient, since none of you do cardioplasty, you can refer neurosurgeon or orthopedic surgeon for cement implantation. This is the way how we practice. Okay. Next slide, please. And this is a Great Wall of China study. And China built this Great Wall of China. It's one of the world landmarks to protect them from enemies, right? And after this built up the Great Wall of China, they had invaded 3 times. And each time, enemy did not need to cross the Great Wall. They just went to the gate. Then they had conspiracy with the gatekeeper. And so the Great Wall of China did not actually protect the China. But nowadays, this wall is like irrelevant. Nowadays, how we conduct war? Very, very different, right? Rarely we have a ground invasion. Just throw the power, missile. It goes to the enemy, it goes to the civilian, nobody cared. Nobody cared about the human lives anymore. And very, but this is the history of Great Wall and this landmark. And this study associated with the spinal cord stimulator implantation and persistent opioid use. So opioid is not a big problem in Vietnam, but in a larger part of the world, it is a big problem. So someone on opioid, you want to give them other treatment, like spinal cord stimulator, pump or something, and look at this if they are able to wean off from the opioid. They do not need to take opioid in the long term. So this is the goal. So this study done by Dr. Steve Cohen, who is very famous in interventional pain medicine in Johns Hopkins University. Next slide, please. So he reviewed case of 552,000. All the patients had a post-laminectomy pain syndrome. That means they have a spinal stenosis or something, and they had a laminectomy. After they developed pain. And you see that 26,000 patients had spinal cord stimulated. Then 26% had opioid use. Then at the 3 months to 15 months, they checked their pain on opioid use. They found out that 63.9% patients still continue to use opioid. While another arm had a post-laminectomy pain, 526,000 patients. It's a very large number, right? Of these patients, no spinal cord stimulator, right? And in this patient, they found out that 24.2% patient has opioid use, and of them, 65.5% patient still continue to use opioid. So difference is very small, 65% versus 63.9%. But because of the large number, it was statistical significant. Okay, so I will not talk about the last slide because we're running out of time. But I would, I really appreciate, I thank Dr. Kong for the invitation, and nice to talk to you. And the next slide, I have our university offered a global online pain fellowship program that for both rheumatic anesthesia and chronic pain. If you are interested in that program, contact Dr. Kong, can give you more information. And I am also here the rest of the day. You can contact with me. And so thank you.